Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Mic'd Up Sports on location. Our guest is going to California, Santa Barbara, at least around this time next year. She's got another year left at DeLaSalle for their volleyball team and a few other clubs and activities. It's Jordyn Johnson. You might have seen her from state volleyball last fall, DeLaSalle making the show, and of course in state basketball, DeLaSalle reached the final for the first time in some times. Jordyn, thanks for stopping by, and you've had quite the resume. You had quite the adventure as a junior.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for having me. Being able to go to state these last 2 years, it's been really busy. I'm really proud of both teams for volleyball and basketball, and the activities that I've been able to participate in. Yeah, it's been quite an adventure, for sure.
And before you started, you noted that you are going to focus on volleyball this next season. So I'm just curious, Jordyn, what was it like balancing two sports? I don't know if you took up AAU or junior. I'm guessing you did JOs during summer breaks earlier on, but how do you manage playing two sports, and what led you to decide to steer toward volleyball as a senior?
So, I've been managing two sports since fifth grade. Started volleyball and basketball in fifth grade. Since then, it's really been about embracing that student athlete persona almost. Being able to reach out to any help that I need. I have a very supportive team for both volleyball and basketball. Being able to have those connections with the girls, with the coaches, it's really made things a lot easier in the terms of being busy all the time, all the stress that gets put on us as student athletes. And I think, I know what led me to just really focus on volleyball is, one, I'm going to college for volleyball. I spent a lot of my time practicing for basketball. I've done a lot of AAU years practicing for basketball, and I really just want to center my focus for volleyball to play at this high level next year. So,
fair enough. And while I will miss seeing you in basketball, because every time we did a DeLaSalle game, including the game with MnAiC, I remember my partner going on about the athleticism and how any team that has to face DeLaSalle would have to get around you in the post, because you are not a pushover when it comes to the paint. So I'm going to miss that part of it, but it's your journey, not mine. You said you've been playing two sports since fifth grade, but I'm curious, when did you get that first itch for athletics that, began in fifth grade and turned into what it is now? But do you remember that first moment or memory that got you hooked on volleyball or basketball?
Yeah, I think for basketball, it was probably sixth grade. Our team, we got to the championship and we had lost, and it really just lit that fire in my heart. It really inspired me to continue to pursue basketball. And in seventh grade, when we'd gotten to the championship, the section championship, it's a CAA, it's a smaller organization, obviously, for youth sports, but that also really lit the fire, that inspiration in my heart for volleyball. So sixth and seventh grade is really where that inspiration came from. So.
And where did volleyball come into the picture?
That was the first sport I ever started playing at an organized level in fifth grade. Volleyball is the first sport of the school year, fall. So I started with volleyball. Then basketball, and then I tried softball, which didn't go very well, or I didn't like it. I really just was trying out the sports that I liked, and those two really stuck with me. So,
what led you to take up those sports? You mentioned when you started or how you got started, but what was it about volleyball and basketball that led you to take it up and give it a go?
To be honest, I think fifth grade me was just like, all my friends were playing these sports. I've heard about these sports, I know these sports, I've watched these sports. I've had cousins that have played these sports, so why not try it out? Youth sports, there isn't really a wide variety for what I can play, or at least at the school that I was at, St. Agnes. So I really just chose those two, and they resonated with me. So
I'm wondering, maybe at another school, would you have taken up another sport? Because you've seen lacrosse, there's track and field, there's all kinds of sports. I've met players who take up football during the fall. Of course, you have volleyball, so that might be a bit of an overlap. But I'm wondering if there's another sport you might have tried out if you could go back and rerun it.
I mean, I had done a few fencing camps. One of my friends does fencing. I'm sort of jealous of her. I mean, I really loved fencing. That was a great experience. Like you said, track and field. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a long distance runner, but throwing, maybe short jumping, I mean, I think that would be a really great experience. And I don't know, I think I really would have wanted to try out a few other sports. Like you said, some other lesser known sports, or less played sports, at least. Tennis, lacrosse, or rowing, other things. But I'm really happy with the sports that I did choose. So.
I'm just wondering what you could have done given your success in volleyball and basketball. I'd like to think you would have probably added another state tournament appearance or two.
I hope so. I mean, that would have been amazing. I mean, if I could have made more connections, gotten more exposure to other people, another sport, obviously. So, I mean, hopefully I can possibly live through my younger sister, who happens to be here, who's also trying all of these different sports. So maybe I can learn a thing or two from her.
Well, I'd like to think when you mention connections, I'm going, wait a minute, because you sent me the list of all the activities you've taken up over the years, and a big thing that you highlight, or a big part of you, is your involvement in robotics, coding, a lot of technological areas. And robotics and coding, I'd like to think they overlap. So I don't think you have any trouble making connections, Jordyn. I don't know too many volleyball, basketball athletes who take up robotics and coding in their spare time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a camp that I went to. It was actually at MnAiC Academy, a youth camp for Lego Robotics. That really, I really loved that camp. So ever since that, I was trying to get as many workshops, camps, clubs that I could that talked about technology. And I took a class this year. I took AP Computer Science. So I got a lot of work with Java and a lot of software, hardcore coding stuff. So, yeah.
We'll touch a little more about that as we make our way through this conversation, Jordyn, but I'm curious, with volleyball, basketball, you had played both sports for several years. Who were the people that inspired you to pursue it as hard as you did? And this could be high school, college, pro, family. Who were your role models when it came to volleyball and basketball?
I really think it was like my family, my immediate family. My dad has always pushed me really hard to be the best that I could be. I remember all the days, all the evenings that I would spend in gyms, outside, just really putting in the work to get to where I am now. And my mom and my sister, they've all been really encouraging. My grandmother, they're always just there for me. Whenever I lose, whenever I win at my games. I mean, the coaches I've had throughout the years, I mean, they've been my inspiration, my motivation.
So you take inspiration from a lot of sources. I was curious if I don't know if you ever had time to sit down and watch a game, but if you watched like a women's college game or WNBA in basketball. I know volleyball, most coverage is usually at the college level, but were there any athletes that added to that mix? You mentioned your family, your coaches, but were there any athletes as well that perhaps you looked up to?
Yeah, I remember when I was first starting volleyball. It might have been 7th, 8th grade, 6th, 7th. But I would go to the women's volleyball Gophers games, and I remember seeing Taylor Morgan. You might know who that is. Alexis Hart. I mean, just seeing their athleticism, their skill, and that was when U of M was like sort of at their prime, or not their prime, but like they were a lot higher up than they are now in volleyball. So watching them play, that just like inspired me even more, and I was able to meet players like that. Oh, Reagan Pittman. She was also an amazing middle. I actually got to, she was one of my trainers for a while. So being able to meet her and then train with her, that's just, those are experiences that, I mean, are priceless. And for basketball, I might have mentioned this in a different interview. But Aaliyah Boston, when she was at South Carolina, she was just a very dominant post. Seeing her literally run the paint whenever she was there, and role models now like Angel Reese, they're just the role models for girls like me, posts like me. So
I'm wondering, well, I guess we'll see what happens when you get to Santa Barbara, but I'm wondering if their basketball coaches might try to get you on their roster in case they need somebody.
Yeah, when I was going through the recruiting process, my coach, one of the recruiting coordinators for volleyball, he was like, "You don't want to play basketball, right? I don't think we want to share our athletes." And I don't think their basketball program is bad, but I really do want to focus on volleyball at Santa Barbara. that's one of their more prominent women's sports there. So I'm excited to have that full season at least, not having to overlap or make sacrifices for either team.
Well, I'll have to keep you in mind, though, if you are a free agent, quote unquote, because I might do some basketball next year. Maybe we can bring you on for a game or two.
Okay.
As you were making your way through, Jordyn, something I ask of a lot of guests of your stature, and I ask this because it's something that I think others that might look like you or might go through the same thing would like to hear about, but you're 6'1", as I understand it. So I'm guessing up until high school, you were one of the taller figures in your class?
Yeah, it's been like that just historically for me. Just the tall girl of the class, but it's paid off, obviously. So being able to play at such a high level for volleyball and basketball, I wouldn't say it's a sacrifice, but it's something that I now cherish. So.
I was going to say, it's not the only thing, though, because I look at what Anisha Scott has done, for example, at DeLaSalle, and some of your other teammates from basketball. I'm not as versed in volleyball, but I'm going, Anisha doesn't let her height or lack thereof stop her from what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't want to sound like I'm.
I know what you
short.
meant. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't think you. No, you. I know you weren't trying to
diminish
Anisha or anyone else that might not be your height.
Yeah.
I'm just having a little fun there. But what was it like growing up, though, being one of the taller figures? You mentioned it helps in sports. Well, in volleyball, if you're up along that front line, and even the backside, of course, basketball too. It certainly helps if you are focused on the interior. But what was that like growing up, like you said, being the tallest girl up until, I'm guessing in high school, there's probably more people that are at your level, so to speak. But what was that like growing up?
It had its pros and cons. Being good at sports, but my social life as a child wasn't as, I didn't have very many friends growing up. I think I was still, obviously a lot of kids are finding themselves, but I don't think my height and strength really resonated with a lot of kids in my classes. I don't know if they felt intimidated or anything, but I don't know, it was difficult in elementary school, but as middle school and high school came around, it was more pros than cons.
Height and strength, I'm wondering, Jordyn, so when you mentioned strength, I'm not doubting it, but like, were you taking up lifting at an early age, or are you just naturally strong? I'm just curious because you certainly aren't afraid to embrace all of the traits that make you who you are, but it's interesting when you say height and strength doesn't always go over well with other classmates in elementary school. I can understand why, but I also find that a little amusing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've always been somewhat athletic, somewhat natural strength than other kids in my class. I wasn't a small kid. There's a lot of second, third, fourth graders that are smaller, and I just wasn't in that category. I don't know if the kids were just plain out scared of me. Obviously it washed over when we got older, but I just don't think that mixed well with them.
Another common refrain that I often hear is finding clothes and shoes that fit. Is that something you experienced? And I guess, how did you work around that if you had trouble finding things?
Yeah, I mean, I really left that up to my mom. I mean, she's been everything. I mean, for finding uniforms at school for DeLaSalle, finding like the right khakis, the right skirts, the right shirts, all the stuff that I have now. She finds a way to get them. She does her research, websites, different stores and things. So I'm always just fine with the stuff that I have. It hasn't been a struggle for me personally. My mom's taken up that burden for me.
Makes me wonder what will happen next year, because I don't think they have uniforms at Santa Barbara outside of the volleyball jerseys. So
Yeah,
you might have to do a little more searching.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
But you did bring up a point, and that's right. DeLaSalle, a lot of the private schools do have uniforms, so you don't have to worry about finding all sorts of different clothing, at least in school. I'm guessing outside of school, same thing?
Yeah. Outside of school, I mean, my mom still takes care of me for all the stuff that I have, dresses, all the essentials that I have.
So the vibe that I'm picking up so far, getting to know your mother, who's in attendance here for this taping, and yourself, you handle all the technological troubleshooting in the family, and she takes care of all the wardrobe inquiries that you might have.
Yeah, and a lot more too. But when it comes to wardrobe, she's the one to go to. So.
That is quite the dynamic. I'd say quite balanced. So you've got all the tech covered, and she's got the wardrobe. I'm guessing next year is going to be a little different because you'll be about 1,500 miles, if not more, away. So I suspect there might be some more FaceTime and texting.
My dad might try to figure some things out, but he might have to call me as well. So
you said all of that awkwardness washed over by junior high. I'm guessing by that point others started getting to you, but did you notice anything that perhaps maybe led others to become less intimidated when they saw you? I've covered you as a basketball athlete, and among all the things that I've known you for, intimidating is not one of them.
I think or at the school that I was at, all the kids just started to mature. We all started to, just grow up. Look past the physical attributes of each other. So, I was able to fit in more with peers that I had. And we were all playing sports together, so we were able to bond more. We were able to know each other farther than whatever we saw in the classroom. So.
You noted that you started at St. Agnes. When did you make the move to DeLaSalle?
They're a K-12 school. I knew that I wanted a more diverse school with the student body and with academics, and I was looking for schools. And DeLaSalle really just felt like home when I toured there, so that's where I ended up going. I don't want to make a dig at them, but I think that their sports programs are a little more advanced. Obviously they're in DeLaSalle's 3A, St. Agnes is 2A. So I was able to get more exposure in that sense as well.
I get what you were saying, and DeLaSalle, even though they went through a coaching transition, I think by the time you arrived, they have a sturdy reputation in basketball. Their boys and girls programs have always been top tier over the last several years, and I know they fared well in other sports over the years. From what I can recall, it's tough when you have to cover every season and you're just trying to keep up, as I do. But do you remember the first time you suited up? I know volleyball comes first on the calendar, but the first time you suited up for varsity in volleyball, basketball, what that was like, entering a new environment? Again, DeLaSalle, great reputation both athletically and academically, but it's a transition, so it can be a little daunting trying to acclimate in a new space, a new place. But what do you remember from that first time you put on the uniform?
I think for volleyball, I was just more excited to be there. Freshman year, I didn't get very much playing time as a freshman. I was really just looking up to the seniors that were there. I was learning a lot. I had never been in that environment before. I mean, these were all new people that I had never met before. I had done summer workouts prior to freshman year, so I had known a few faces, but I was really it was anxious, I was excited, and it was just like a new chapter for me. And the same thing for basketball, having Savannah White, Atiana Salam, and Sydney, I forgot her last name.
Runsway.
Sydney Runsway. I was really looking up to them for basketball. I mean, they really embraced us freshmen that year, so we were able to have great connections with them. And I think we executed for the most part our season. So.
And I almost forgot on top of that, I don't know if you skipped a year or just came in early, but you've always said, yeah, I'm a year younger than my age group. So if you don't mind, did you start early? Did you skip a year, or what's the story behind that?
Yeah, I just started kindergarten early. My mom didn't want to keep me in preschool for another year because I had passed the test to go to or to enter kindergarten at St. Agnes. So at 4 years old, I was starting in kindergarten, and now I'm going to be a 16-year-old starting their senior year. So, I mean, it hasn't been too much of a difficulty. So.
Well, considering the fields you've already explored and your prowess in both athletics and coding and all of that, yeah, I could see why.
Yeah.
I could see why, yeah, she's ready to go. You probably had all that stuff down at 4 years old, right? You knew how to code, you knew how to build a website?
If I had, I don't know if I'd be sitting here right now. I might be finishing college somewhere, master's or something.
Well, you've got a little time, so let's not hurry through it.
Yeah.
So you can enjoy being a college athlete and all the other stuff that you're doing. Now, what position do you play in volleyball typically?
I'm a middle blocker.
That was my hunch, but I don't like to make assumptions. It's sort of like basketball with stretch fours now or posts that can play point. And I've seen smaller players hold their own in the post too. So I always like to ask before I make that assumption or conclusion. But how did the two sports carry over? I know volleyball, basketball is a pretty common crossover, but how did they support each other as you were making your way through your years at DeLaSalle?
I mean, like they're both one sport after the other. Their seasons are right next to each other. And because, like I said, when I tried volleyball and basketball in 5th grade, and that resonated with me, I mean, that just became my like my yearly almost ritual. Fall volleyball and winter for basketball. And I mean, they do play similar parts for each other. I mean, I don't want to go into like specifics, but they're hand in hand. So you can practice different skills throughout each sport. So.
Well, Jordyn, there are no wrong answers. I've had guests come on who have asked me, am I going on too long? I've said, no, this is your canvas. So if you want to go into specifics, by all means, you can answer. Or you know what, maybe you'll save it for some sort of, since you can do Java, I'm guessing you've got a lot of know-how already. You could just build your own instruction manual on all the differences and similarities. But there is one difference, and we were talking about sports, and you noted this before we started taping. DeLaSalle, not necessarily known for volleyball when you look at their history, and that's not to say there haven't been good athletes that come through there, but every sport has the blue bloods, and in 3A, it's usually Marshall, or I know Delano got to the final this year. And in basketball, that's where DeLaSalle has been more successful, winning a state title, I think, back in 2019, going to state several years since then. What did you learn? What did you absorb in those two different environments where you were trying to build something with DeLaSalle volleyball and with basketball in the 3 years that you've played? You were continuing a pretty strong legacy that had been established by the time you arrived.
Yeah. I think for volleyball, it was a lot more free play. I mean, the school had never been to the state tournament ever in school history. So, I mean, being able to look at the seniors and their want to go to the state tournament. I remember freshman year we lost in the section championship, and I was like, nope, we're not doing that again. That's what I was thinking. So being able to make that accomplishment, get that banner on the wall in our gym, being able to say, yeah, we finally did this, our sophomore, junior year. But going into basketball, I mean, I think there was a lot more pressure on our team because, like you said, DeLaSalle has that legacy for basketball. We have something expected of us. We're expected to perform every time we come on the court. But I think that obviously has its pros and cons, the pressure of it, but also being able to be a part of such an amazing team with amazing players throughout that history. So that difference between volleyball and basketball, I think it's different, but.
Different, but as you alluded to, it's led to a lot of success along the way. So even though a state championship hasn't come your way at DeLaSalle, what did you sense going into that sophomore year? Because I think you made state in both. What did you sense in your sophomore year that you thought helped DeLaSalle continue the legacies in the case of basketball and then start a new one with volleyball?
I think as a sophomore and having both teams lose in the section championship, I mean that hurts. You know, having your season ended in a championship. You know, you got so far, but it's done. So that really lit a fire in the coaches' hearts and the players' hearts and in my heart to win that section championship. So going into that season, it was just we're not going to let that happen again. And as a team, like for both sports, we didn't. So being able to make that accomplishment, just inching forward, making those steps, like junior year, got to the state championship for basketball, being able to, like I said, make those steps. I think it was a good accomplishment. I'm proud of what our sophomore year teams did post freshman year. So.
What do you remember from that sophomore year in particular with volleyball? Because as you had said, before you got there, they had never gone to state. And I think every team goes in hoping they can win it all, and of course only one can. But being part of that first team, what do you remember from that moment, and just how excited were you and everybody else when you got a chance to write a little history in a sport that hadn't had that kind of history before?
I remember freshman year, we had like a super team almost. The seniors, there were 4 or 5 seniors, and 2 of them ended up going to play one of them went Division I and one went Division III, and we really thought that was going to be our year to go to state. But it wasn't, and once they left, I don't think anyone had faith in our team. So when us sophomores stepped up, us sophomores and seniors, we stepped up to make that change when no one believed in us. I mean, that was exhilarating. I mean, throughout, we just won game after game after game, and once we finally won, I think we just, I wouldn't say changed everyone's minds, but I think we defied expectations, so.
And then in basketball, your sophomore year, that was after Savannah, Sydney, and I think IT was still there, or she was part of the 22 class as well. I've been covering this sport way too long. I can't remember who's where anymore, but similar circumstances where the players that were part of the previous regime that helped get them to state weren't there, and now it was your turn and Anisha's turn and Ariana, and I think Maddie Blaylark joined that year too, if I remember right. So what do you remember from basketball and having to take more of those leadership reins?
I think it was almost the same like it was for volleyball. I mean, we had lost those seniors. Like we had a 4-star player on our team. We thought that we were going to head to state that year. They were such great leaders, and I don't think they had enough faith in us youngsters, I would say, because our team was led by sophomores. And like I said before, we defied expectations and we got the job done. So us as a young team, being able to make that step forward, being able to get back to the state championship, like we weren't able to the past few years since, what was it, 2019?
2019 is when they last won. At 2020,
no one was able to.
Right, nobody won it because
Yeah.
of you know what.
Mm-hmm. So being able to just get us back on the map there, that was very rewarding.
Now, I'm familiar with the people you played with in basketball, but if you don't mind, in volleyball, who are some of the folks? I know yourself, one of the big architects for their recent success, but who are some other players that you've gelled with that allowed you to make it to state when folks weren't sure that was going to happen, and then do it again last fall?
So to start off, like my biggest role model was Grace Travis. She has a brother and a sister. They've went various places, Ivy Leagues.
I'm thinking like Jonah Travis, Olivia Travis.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I covered several members of their family, particular Olivia. So yeah, they're tough, athletic, smart cookies.
Yeah, and she really just laid out the framework for me as a freshman. Being able to watch her, taking advice from her for how we should lead the team in the next few years. I mean, that was the start point of, I think, my volleyball career at DeLaSalle. And two players that I had kind of, I wouldn't say grown up with because they graduated this year, but Leah DeSabor and Aaron Stauffer, my libero and setter. I mean, us three, we were captains this last year, and we had led the team by ourselves. I mean, obviously because we're the upperclassmen, but they've been there since day one. We are I wouldn't say the focal point, but hitting, passing, and setting. Those are the three focal points of volleyball, and they've just been there for me. I've been able to make really great relationships with them throughout the seasons. And a last person, oh my gosh, Miriam Unongo. She plays for St. Thomas now for volleyball. Whenever there was tensions within the team, she was just someone that I've always been there to talk to, and she understood. She was a role model. She was the person I would go to for advice. So those four players have been the biggest people for me at DeLaSalle.
And then in basketball, I've mentioned what was the freshmen, sophomores, now juniors. It'll look a little different this year, but it was you and Ariana and Anisha that came in, and then, as I noted before, Maddie Blaylark joined the next year and added her skill set to the mix. But in particular, I think the camaraderie that you had with Anisha and Ariana really stood out. I remember speaking to you and Anisha at the Tip-Off Classic, and I don't remember all the details, but I know you were playing off each other quite well. How did that help you get acclimated into basketball, and what was it about Ariana and Anisha that perhaps helped you thrive the way you did?
I think the main factor was us all being freshmen, coming in to DeLaSalle. I mean, it's a new environment for anyone entering as freshmen. We were all getting this, I don't want to say weight, but I mean the pressure of DeLaSalle, of their basketball program, of the legacy that they have there, being able to take that up together, and like you said, play off of each other, use each other's skills in the way that is best for our team. I think that really allowed us to connect in the way that we did, and it helped with the success that we had throughout the seasons.
And then this past year in basketball, I guess I should clarify first. So with volleyball, how far have you gone in state in your 2 years?
Well, we ended up playing Marshall both years, so we got knocked out. But
they do that to a lot of schools, though. Yeah. So it's not just you. They have a strong, well-oiled machine over there.
Yeah, I think it was 35 years straight that they've gone to state, something like that. But we weren't so lucky with our first round opponent. But I'm still very proud of our team being able to get to state in the first place after not being able to in the entire school's history.
Well, again, if you got to go against Marshall and you take a knock against them, it's like, okay, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Yeah. Although I'm sure you'd like to rewrite that script if you can. But in basketball, you had a chance to reach the championship. I know by that point, Olivia was fully healthy, and you've gone up against her many times. DeLaSalle, Benilde, St. Margaret's have that annual rivalry game. But what do you remember from this junior year run where you got to the finals, you got to play at Williams Arena, you got all of the hype exposure and had a chance to live out one of those dreams that I think you and Anisha and all those kids, whether they're at DeLaSalle or not, all those kids pining for that moment, you got a chance to experience it. What do you remember from that run?
I mean, obviously it hurts to lose in the championship, but I think most of all, I'm really proud of our team. I mean, we haven't gotten to play in the Williams Arena the past 2 years. Being able to be on that stage, it's it's crazy. I mean, that's what we've been working for the last 2-3 years together as a team. So being able to reach that accomplishment together after everything that we've gone through, all the work that we've put in throughout the summers, I think it really paid off for us. So.
How do you think your role in sports has helped you kind of become one with yourself? You talked about that strength and vertical stature of yours, but something I've been getting from you, Jordyn, in this conversation, at least among the expressions or gestures, just confidence. And I don't think too many are lacking in it, but you're proud of what you've done and you're not afraid to embrace everything that makes you who you are.
Yeah, I mean, having the fame of volleyball and basketball, it does bring confidence. Being able to be proud of what you've done, and it means something to you and to the people around you. I think it's also brought a sort of discipline to my life. I mean, playing sports, you have to have a sort of discipline. To get far, you need to be able to put in the work, put in the time, manage your time. So being able to partake in these sports, I think it's really set, like you said, the framework for the life that I'm living now.
You mentioned fame, so do you get fellow students asking for autographs or pictures when you make it to state? Are we kind of talking that level of fame?
No, I don't think so. But having the support of the student body, of the teachers, of the administration at DeLaSalle, of family members, and of fellow teammates, family members, that's the sort of fame. Just like them supporting us in what we do. Being able to portray DeLaSalle on that stage is the fame that we're all searching for. So.
Well, I hope you find that at Santa Barbara as well. If you don't mind, how did you end up on Santa Barbara or end up deciding it? Because you announced that verbal commitment late sometime in the fall of last year, your junior year. And I know in basketball sometimes players will verbal before they sign the NLI. I found out in soccer sometimes they do that long before they even get close to their junior year. But what was the recruitment process like for you? I'm guessing you got a lot of looks for volleyball and basketball, but how did Santa Barbara volleyball stand out amongst, I don't know how many schools, but I'm guessing more than a few were sending letters your way?
Well, originally I thought I was going to go to college for basketball because I had been in AAU. That was the predominant sport that I was focused on. But when I started sending letters out for the June 15th email, a little bit before this time last year, the schools that really reached out and stayed in contact for volleyball was Santa Barbara, and I went to a camp at Duke. They ended up signing a different middle. But Santa Barbara, they stayed in contact throughout the summer. And during the volleyball season, the relationship between them just grew. And I know that for volleyball, I was really late in the recruitment process. For volleyball, like right now, there's 2026s that are verbally committed, like a week after June 15th, after they can get the call. So me being a junior, and not being able to play club, which most recruits do for volleyball. I was late in the process, but they really spent their time on me as a recruit, and they flew out for one of the section games. They saw me play, and I got the offer. And I really like the program. I mean, they're not a bad school for volleyball, and they're a great school academically as well. When I went on the visit, everything it aligned perfectly with me. So Santa Barbara is where I'll be going.
You spoke of pursuing or exploring the basketball route first before making the switch to volleyball. And I don't know if this played into, again, your choice to not participate in basketball. Of course, if you change your mind, I'd be happy to see you again, but that decision is yours. What led you into the direction of volleyball when basketball, you thought that was going to be the sport you played in college? And again, I've seen crazier things, but how did volleyball become that sport that you decided to pursue that path in?
It's quite simple, really. I just had a better relationship with the schools that I was talking to for volleyball. They were a lot more interested in me as a player. They wanted to build that relationship with me throughout the recruiting process. And the volleyball schools did just that. I didn't get very much of that when I was looking for schools for basketball. I think that Santa Barbara really recognized me as a person more than just a player on the court. So.
And what are you excited about going out west? I think Santa Barbara, where exactly are they located?
Southern California.
Southern California, so you'll be near LA, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. Well, I know LA is a giant metropolis. I was going to say, well, you'll be focused on college athletics, so you could probably look into an internship with the Dodgers or Angels while you're out there. But what excites you most about going out to the LA area, Southern California, and getting a chance to play Division I? I know that's going to put you a long distance away from everybody, but like you said, it has that combination that you were looking for when you decided to enroll at DeLaSalle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, enrolling at DeLaSalle, it's something new. It's a new chapter of my life. High school is a new chapter, and college is going to be a new chapter. So being able to play a sport that I love in a new place, a beautiful place that's going to benefit me academically and athletically, I don't think that's a word, and through athletics.
I would like to think it would benefit you athletically as well. It'll keep you in shape. I know that much. Mm-hmm. They don't take that lightly at any D1 school.
Yeah, and they're a top 40 school for volleyball as well. So being able to play at such a high level in the Big West, I'm really excited to have that experience.
And whatever happens, I always say, again, it's your story, and if you can make a deep run, I know the volleyball tournament is getting a lot more exposure now, a lot more coverage than it once did, and I was always impressed at the number of viewers, even at the high school level for a while. It has a massively popular following, even if there isn't a pro circuit like WNBA for basketball. When you see that kind of swell, you mentioned going to the Gophers games. I don't know how many Santa Barbara fans will be following you or following your backstory, but having gone to those games and taking inspiration, you mentioned Reagan Pittman. I got to meet her once. I think she runs the Stand Tall volleyball program, and she came to a game that I was broadcasting for a session. But you'll have a chance in a couple of years, because you've got one more year at DeLaSalle, to perhaps offer that same beacon of admiration for younger fans the way those Gophers players did for you. How cool is that when you think about those things?
I mean, I think it's pretty insane almost, having that role reversed, the chain reaction of role models. I'm thinking of who could have been Taylor Morgan's inspiration for how she got to where she is, and Reagan, and how they have influenced me through their programs. So I hope at Santa Barbara, I mean, California's a pretty big volleyball. They're like one of the best. They're home to some of the best clubs in the nation. So if I can be a role model for them to help them continue their volleyball career, I mean, that's going to be. I think that's one of the most priceless things that you can have as an athlete.
This history of you getting into robotics coding, you talked a little bit about your fascination with that. You have an internship with the Twins this year as a software developer. So when did you find an interest in all of this tech, all of this infrastructure, all of this IT, a lot of the things that most of us need with all the stuff that we're doing, what fascinated you about getting into the world of technology?
Like I said before, there's a camp I went to at MnAiC Academy for Lego Robotics, and I think it was a 2-week camp where I was like introduced to like the most simple block coding and mechanics for a Lego robot. And ever since then, I've been trying to sign up for, I was trying to sign up for camps, workshops, and when I was introduced to a robotics club that I was able to do the past 2 years, I was ready to join it. So I think that was the birthplace of my fascination for tech.
How does robotics work? I've seen it. I think my high school had it, and I know at the state fair there are robotics demonstrations. But for those who may not have any idea what that means, how does Robotics Club work, and what are some of the skills, facts, and just things you've picked up on that has continued to fuel this passion? And I'm guessing you're going to be exploring some kind of career in whether it's software or other kinds of technology. How does robotics play a part in all that?
Yeah, so at Santa Barbara, I hope to major in mechanical engineering there. And for the robotics club that I partake in, they're a club and they join a challenge. So we do FTCA's First Tech Challenge, and there's an agenda that you have to do. You have to make a robot that does a certain task, whether it's pick up cones and place them together or put a bunch of stickers on a pallet. You have to create a robot to best do that task. And you're competing against other teams' robots who can do it the fastest, who can do it the most. And there's multiple sections. It's almost like a volleyball tournament. Like you do that. You know, if you place high enough, you can go to the next round. So that's the robotics that I do. And I think for mechanical engineering, robotics is a very prominent part for engineering, period. It takes a lot of, sometimes it takes sacrifice if you don't have the right tools. I remember many nights and the night before a robotics tournament where we're making do with what we have, duct tape, if we don't have the right parts. So it does take sacrifice, critical thinking, a lot of stuff, but it's fun overall. So,
what kind of things, if you've gone that route, have you tried building things at home when you've got spare time? Because when you talked about coding, I don't know why, my mind went to Minecraft. You're probably familiar with that game, and I heard one of the creators said one of the ideas was to introduce people to coding because they have all those functions that can allow you to emulate things through Minecraft if you know how to code right. But what kind of things have you built? Robots, of course, but have you tried your hand at putting other things together with your engineering and software background?
For the most part, I had like an extreme Lego collection. I ended up taking a lot of them apart, or they ended up getting broken. But I would spend like hundreds of dollars just buying different Lego sets that I would put together. And this past year, throughout my computer science course, I've had a little bit of free time being able to just play around with different softwares. So making games, just making code to do one specific task. So those are the main things that I've done recently in terms of building. So.
Well, who knows? Maybe you'll build some things in Minecraft as well. I don't know if you've seen videos of the kinds of things people have put together through their coding experience. I'm guessing there aren't a ton of similarities in terms of athletics when you go to robotics and coding, because you don't have to worry about a post-up or a block. You don't have to worry about receiving a pass or doing all of that stuff. But is there anything that perhaps crosses over from your sports life to your participation in robotics and coding and engineering?
Yeah, I mean, they both, sports and robotics, they both take a lot of critical thinking. You have to be very in touch with what you're doing. So like your robot or whatever sport you're doing, the ball, the hoop, the net, you have to know its functions. And you have to have a good relationship with the people that you're with, because a lot of times you're not controlling the robot by yourself. So you have to make that connection with your teammates, with your robot mates, in the same way that you have to have that connection with your teammates on the court. And by working together, you can make that common goal to get to the next level.
I should have had you bring one of your Lego robots or one of your sets so you could demonstrate just how much you know, and I certainly wouldn't question it. But when you told me about that and I had a chance to see some of the work you're doing, I don't know how much you follow the national spotlight, things like that, but I know typically robotics, coding, engineering, not necessarily avenues that are associated with a black woman like yourself. I don't know if you think in those terms or not, or if you just do it for fun, but knowing that you have a chance to show that people who look like you can engage in these quote-unquote nerdy activities and discover just all of the fun things you can do with imagination, critical thinking, because I imagine, or I presume it takes a lot of that to pull off all the things that you've got to do in robotics and in sports as well. But knowing that you're having a lot of fun doing it, you've had a lot of success from what I've heard, what do you think that representation will mean for perhaps yourself, your family, and maybe others who might follow your story, whether it's here or at Santa Barbara?
Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time on social media. Being able to diversify fields in which, well, women, period, aren't very prominent in, I mean, that's an opportunity I really couldn't pass down, especially doing something that I love. So being able to further inspire kids, whether it's through engineering, through coding, through simple things in their lives, just encouraging them to go in their own path, pursue what they want to pursue, not let statistics bring them down. If I'm able to do that for athletics or through whatever my career is, I think that's going to be the main goal, one of the main goals for me. So,
what would you say is the favorite thing or command, one of your favorite moments from robotics, or whether it's a set that you built, a program that you got to work, anything that stands out that you look back on and go, yeah, I did that?
I would say, well, recently it was a final project for my computer science class. I was just able to make a game for the class that I was able to present. It was really fun. I was able to create these little sprites, and it would follow this one of the other sprites around, and I had to get to a certain place. I was really proud of that game that I made. And for robotics, this last year, we didn't do so well, but I was proud with the contribution that I did make. I wasn't as present this last year for robotics, but for the impact that I did make, I was really proud of. So.
Well, I know I haven't built a game in my spare time. I can get my way around a few things, but not like that. Well, so is it still a playable game, or how does that work? Because I do a lot of tech work, but in a different capacity with video production, things like that. I can't say I've ever built a game from the ground up.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily from the ground up. There's a site in Microsoft called MnAiC. You can choose to build it in JavaScript or block coding. I did a little bit of both because I know a little bit of Java. Well, I know a significant amount of Java, so being able to transfer that to JavaScript, that was a pretty fun activity.
As you mentioned earlier, with your knowledge of Java and JavaScript, I'm guessing that has been helpful with your internship with the twins as software developer, I think you said. How did you come across that, and what have you learned already? I don't know how long you've been in that position, but I don't know of too many 16-year-olds that intern with the twins in software development. I know a lot of kids will maybe take up other things, and there's no wrong entry point, but I don't know too many folks who can say, I got to intern with a Major League Baseball team at such a young age.
Yeah, so my computer science teacher actually recommended me to apply for this. It's an award. So it's called the Aspirations Award. It's for women in STEM. So you literally just put your statistics for STEM on an application, and you send it out to the aspirations team, and they identify you as like state, national, honorable mention, and they recognize you in front of a networking team, in which I was able to meet the business analyst team for the Twins, and I was able to apply for the internship that they had for the students that were aspirations winners. So through that award, I was able to get this internship, which is a lot different from what I was doing in Java. I'm doing a lot more with databases and servers and things. So it's a little bit more complex than hardcore JavaScript, but I am learning a lot, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing now.
If you don't mind, what are some of the things you've picked up on that you feel will help you going into your senior year at DeLaSalle and beyond? Because this kind of experience, I've heard a lot about internships to get that entry point, but to have this already in your background that you'll be able to send to potential employers down the road, that's going to get some eyeballs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, it's an experience where I'm definitely learning a lot. Being able to see firsthand what data engineers and computer scientists do day to day for this large corporation. I think I'm going to be able to pinpoint what I want to work on later in life with the major that I have.
I think that is a fair answer. I know I've been there too when I'm broadcasting games and you know what you want to say and it just doesn't want to come out. So what are your plans as far as a major, and where do you see yourself? Because you're learning about data management with the Twins. You have a lot of experience with Java and JavaScript, and you've already mentioned some of the things you've been able to do in robotics, and you've been able to put all of that together. I don't know how far your athletic career will go, but I don't think it's going to take long for you to make your mark in some kind of technological or engineering profession. But what plans do you have as you prep for the senior year at DeLaSalle and then make that jump out to Santa Barbara?
Yeah, so for next year, I really hope to, right now, as I'm doing now, I'm hoping to expand my knowledge of the tech field. So really just getting more experience with computer science and software in general. And next year I'm going to be taking a few physics courses, just getting in the STEM field, really getting that hands-on experience. And when I go to Santa Barbara, I hope to major in mechanical engineering and then either join the Air Force or the Space Force with the skills that I have now.
That's a pretty lofty goal, and that will be among the first to congratulate you if you get there.
Thank you.
What is it about those agencies that you think would be the best fit for the skill set and the attributes that you're building?
I think that they're very interactive, somewhat interactive with today's world. I think I'm going to be able to be a part of a lot of projects that are going to, I hope that'll mirror my morals and and sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, you're fine. I'm like, what kind of morals are we talking about here?
Well, I don't know how the world is going to go, but if I join the Space Force, I hope I'm going to be doing the right thing with the skills
I'd like
that I
to
have.
think, yeah, you're the kind of person who is morally sound. Like you aim to do the right thing.
Yes.
I don't know where I was going with that. I was trying to have some fun.
Yeah, I'm really just hoping to put my skills in the best workplace where I can, be the most happy, I've seen a lot of, I watched a course on TypeScript, which is one of the languages that I'm learning at the Twins, and he worked in the Air Force, and he was fixing helicopters in San Diego. I mean, that doesn't sound like a very bad life, being able to use my skills in the correct environment, doing something that I love, that's the dream.
And in a world where technology is always at our fingertips and is such a dominant aspect of our lives, even with our phones, I'd like to think whatever happens, you will always be in demand because someone will always need some sort of project, some sort of program to be built. So It's a good way to get a steady stream of work, I think, Jordyn.
Yeah, I hope so.
There are a few questions I'd like to ask of my guests. You might have come across this in your own experiences, but throughout your time in athletics so far, what would you say is the most exciting moment and the most embarrassing moment?
I got to think on this. Most exciting moment, I would say my sophomore year for volleyball, when I realized like we just made history, for the school. And that was also the first time where I'd won a championship in whatever association that I was in. I had never won past the little CAA championship, and that broke. It really hurts. Let's just say that. And then losing both championships freshman year for volleyball and basketball, being able to make that first win in the section championship for volleyball, that was it was a great experience. And I would say, I don't know about most embarrassing.
When it comes to that, I tell folks it's something silly that might have happened during a game or a practice or something. Just a moment where you look back on it and go, "What the heck was I thinking?"
I think it was seventh grade at an AAU tournament, and I had these ponytail extensions on, and it had fallen out in the game, so I had to go pick it up and put it back on my head mid-game. And there were a lot of people around, and they saw the whole thing fall out. And we knew from then on to secure whatever I had in my hair from then on.
I could understand how that would be a little terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's my hair.
Yeah.
Or that's an extension anyway.
Hold on, guys.
I can't say I've seen it myself, at least not in sports. I remember covering a drill team event once, and one of the choreographers was going at it so hard that her weave came off. And that was no one can question her commitment to it. She was dancing so hard. So, well, if that's your worst moment, I'd like to think you've done quite well then.
Yes.
I'm guessing it. Yeah.
So.
Well, if a ponytail were to ever fall out again, it probably wouldn't have hurt your ability to get the block or get that bump, right?
No, I hope not.
I know you've answered this in the breakdown guidebooks for basketball. I'm guessing you've answered this in volleyball, but I'll throw it out there because you seem to give different answers every year. But what would you say is the most unusual thing about yourself that people wouldn't necessarily know if they met you for the first time? I guess we spoiled it a little bit with coding and engineering, but something else that comes to mind.
Like I said, we talked about this earlier, about me being younger for my age group. I remember back in sixth grade, one of the coaches, it was more jokingly, they were asking where's her birth certificate? I don't think she's in this age group. She's got to be older, because I was one of the taller kids on the team. So I think knowing that I could be an upcoming junior this year is something that I don't think a lot of people would have thought about first meeting me.
Well, you know what? I like to think it'll give you a year head start to pursue that dream destination of Air Force, Space Force, or who knows. Like I said, I have a feeling a lot of different areas will be at your fingertips for exploration. And I know you still have a long way to go in your athletic career and your profession, your pursuits, ambitions with engineering in particular, but what advice would you have to anyone out there? You mentioned diversifying and getting that representation is key, but anyone who might be considering that same track, what would you tell them? Because like you said, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you have the passion for it and the know-how, and you certainly do, you can hang in there with the best of them and remind everybody that I can do more than just ball.
Yeah. I would say, it's going to be difficult. I think I'm really only scratching the surface of the difficulty that I'm going to face. But in the class that I took this year for computer science, it was me and one of my best friends. We were the only women of color in that class, and that was the only class that we had at DeLaSalle. So, I mean, and the class was not an easy class. It was very difficult. So you're going to have ups and downs, but I mean, I know I'm going to just keep moving forward, keep obtaining knowledge through whatever I'm doing. And I'm hoping that I'll reach the end goal. And I'm pretty sure if they keep doing what they're doing, they keep putting in the work that they need to put in, that they'll reach their end goal too.
I've done this for a long time. I think you're the first who has expressed that interest and has talked about a career and this journey in engineering, in software, and all of these things. And that, again, is so vital to what we do now. So I'd like to think I learned a few new things today, thanks to you, and I appreciate you for enlightening us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. I'm glad I can share my story and my interests with you. So.
Well, I know your story isn't quite done yet. Maybe we'll do this again next year before you leave for Santa Barbara, but after your volleyball season. We'll see what you've learned.
Yeah.
Or you know what, maybe you can show us one of those robotics or software demonstrations.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll keep that in mind. You know, give fans a teaser. Give them something to look forward to, right?
I don't just remember the name, Jordyn Johnson.
It's a pretty easy one to remember.
Yeah.
It also helps that I've seen you a few times, but it does kind of roll off the tongue. Well, thanks again, Jordyn, and can't wait to see what comes next at DeLaSalle and beyond.
All right, thank you.
So Jordyn Johnson, you'll see her on the volleyball court one more time at DeLaSalle, and then it's off to Santa Barbara in 2026. And who knows what will come next after that, but I'm pretty sure we're going to hear her name for a long time. And if you want to have your name heard on this program and elsewhere, you can always contact us on social media, because if you've got a story, we want to share it. So until next time, thanks for watching.